It is Azure Virtual Machines. A virtual machine or a VM is a software emulation of a physical computer or physical server. You see, a virtual machine is a software emulation of a physical server. It is just like your physical server. Because VM exists as a software, dozens or hundreds or even thousands of virtual machines can be generated in minutes, they can be created in minutes, then can be deleted when you don't need them actually. Because virtual machine is a piece of software. Though it has got virtual processor, virtual memory, virtual network interface card, virtual hard drives, it is still a piece of software. So as it is piece of software means what? It is a piece of code. So at any point of time, you just do a copy paste of that code and another instance of a VM is ready for you. So with low cost, per minute billing, you can pay only for the compute resources you use for as long as you are using them. So as we've talked about Azure, cloud pricing models, pay as you go. That means you create a machine, use it for 2 hours or 4 hours or only for 30 minutes. Only bill is only generated for the number of minutes that you actually use. Earlier, in good old days, it was the per hour billing. That means even if you use it for 10 minutes, you are billed for the entire hour. Now it is per minute. They will calculate exact number of minutes that you've actually used. If it is for 65 minutes, well, you are only billed for that 65 minutes. Virtual machine is one of the compute options in Azure cloud. See, why we need computers in the first place? Tell me, why we need these servers? Anybody? Why do we need these computers, guys? Data security, okay? See, the basic point why we need computers is, if you see the good old days, the banking system, okay, or any other supermarket, billing system, or let's talk about the banking for a minute. What we used to do, you go to a bank, you either deposit money or withdraw money. Then they're going to make an entry into a physical book. So tomorrow, if you go to a different branch to another, city, and you wanted to withdraw, it is practically not possible because how much money you have in your bank account is only available in the Hyderabad branch. If you go to Chennai, they don't know your bank details and all. They don't have access to, your account. So this was possible because you've done the computerization and then the internet. So you put entries in a centralized location into a computer, and this data is accessible all over the world provided authorization. So this centralized banking system has come. It's not just the security, but in the first place, the computerization lift the barriers. There are many obstacles and barriers in the businesses that have been lifted. So very simple example to say, let's say you go to a supermarket. There you see a computer where all the line items, all the products, their barcodes and their stock value and their each item's cost with the discount and net price is fed into the system. When you go to the billing counter, they just look at the item, they do a barcode scanner, and they tell you, sir, this is your bill. So this is possible because of this computer. So you need a server, instead of a computer, is because if it is a computer, let's say your laptop, you keep it on for a couple of days, then you see it start hungs. It will not respond quickly. That's where the supermarkets, or let's say if there is a business that is running 24 hours into 365 days, and you cannot tolerate the system going down for a minute also. That is when, instead of the computers, they've invented a heavy duty computers. That's what you call them as servers, where a possible number of components are redundant. Let's say there are two network interface cards. If one fails, you still have the other so that it is not causing any disturbance to your business. There are two HBAs. If one fails, you still have another, and your server is up and running, your application is up and running, your customers are able to make the transactions. There are two hard drives configured in RAID 1. So if one fails, you still have another hard drive, and it will not let your application go down or system go down. Your business is continue to run. So these are all the reasons on why we've moved to the servers. Now, a virtual machine is one of the compute options. That means, boss, if you wanted to install this application, the billing application, it could be the banking application, it could be, or any other application, it could be. Virtual machine is one of the options. For example, let's say you have a function at home, right? And there are 100 guests coming. For all those 100 guests, option one is you cook, yourself and you feed them. Option two is you give for catering. It's the same. The whole idea was to treat the guests well and to give them a good food, good hospitality. But How would you choose the first option or the second option? It depends. Or you organize this function in a good hotel, let the hotel take care of the entire hospitality and the food. It all depends. What option would you pick? What option would you pick? It depends. Similarly, if you wanted to host an application in Azure Cloud, in AWS Cloud, in Google Cloud, anywhere, virtual machine is one of the options. Then you've got web app, and you've got functions, you've got Docker containers, you've got Kubernetes, and maybe later part of this course you understand all these compute options, maybe most of them, and why virtual machine, why not Docker containers, or why Docker container, why not Kubernetes, why functions. This is a level of discussion into the 305 certification, which is advanced architecting or architecting on Azure cloud. But still, you need to have that level of a knowledge in order to crack the interviews. So if you see container instances, availability sets, functions, batch, service fabric, Kubernetes, app service. So there are many compute options in Azure cloud. Virtual machines is one of the options. Azure VM provides scalable compute capacity on an on-demand pay-as-you-go basis to its cloud users. So scalable compute capacity on an on-demand pay-as-you-go basis to its end users. What is the scalable compute capacity? Can anybody tell me? See, it is simple. Scalable compute capacity means you need a virtual machine with one processor and 1 GB of RAM. And you need a compute with 4 processors and 16 GB of RAM. Or even a bigger machine, you need a machine with, say, some 36 processors and 256 GB of RAM, 512 GB of RAM. Well, you will get it. That's what it means. So it provides scalable compute capacity on demand pay as you go. If you have completed your cloud computing fundamentals course, that section of the prerequisites, then you will understand there are 5 essential qualities of the cloud. So on demand is one of them. That means whenever you want a service, whenever you want a virtual machine, you yourself can log into the portal and can create virtual machines. Pay as you go. That means when you log into a portal, create a virtual machine, yourself. You don't have to create a ticket for Microsoft. Hey, Microsoft, create 2 virtual machines for me. And you wait for them to create virtual machines. It could be 4 hours, 10 hours, or 1 day, 2 day. No, you yourself log into the portal, create a virtual machine on your own. That's on demand. Pay as you go or pay per use. That means you've created the virtual machine now. You let it run for 5 minutes. You let it run for 5 days or 10 days. Well, you are only billed for the exact usage that you have made. So Azure Virtual Machine Service allows you to acquire compute through launching of virtual instances called virtual machine. So virtual machines, EC2, GCE, in Oracle Cloud, you call them as OVM, Oracle Virtual Machine. Any name it is, end of the day, it is a virtual server. Virtual server is nothing but a physical server, similar to a physical server. And what is a physical server? We have come across it again. Users can dynamically spin up these instances, right? It's again the same. We can create the instances whenever you wanted to, and you perform your jobs in it, whether it is installing the application, testing the application, do any activity on it. Once you're done, you shut it down, and you are only billed for the actual number of minutes you have used it for. Azure Virtual Machine is also a highly scalable service. So can anybody tell me what is the difference between scale up and scale out? Well, this is not something specific to Azure Virtual Machines, but it is a standard terminology in Azure, in IT industry across. So what is the scale up and scale out? See, scale up is also called as vertical scaling. Scale out is called horizontal scaling. So scale up means, let's say you've created a virtual machine with the 2 processors and 4 GB of RAM. And let's say your application owner or application team come back and tell you, boss, this configuration is not sufficient for us. Well, then you have to resize it with maybe 4 processors, 8 GB of RAM, or further resize it, say 16 processors, 128 GB of RAM. So the same machine will be resized. That is called scale up or vertical scaling. Scale out is a machine with 2 processors and 4 GB of RAM. And if application team come back and tell you, boss, this configuration is not sufficient, well, then you will create another machine with the 2 processors, 4 GB of RAM, and there is a load balancer to which your servers are connected to. And if they still say this configuration is not sufficient, you'll create another server, 2 processors, 4 GB of RAM connected to load balancer, right? So at the end, at application level, if you see 3 twos or 6 processors, 12 GB of RAM is the total configuration of the application. But Individual servers, you have them with different configuration. I mean, multiple individual servers accumulating the same capacity. So Azure Virtual Machines is a service that supports scale up and scale out both. Customers can provision VMs from the scratch using variety of templates, or even uploading their own servers built on premises into the Azure cloud. Well, that means you will be able to create a virtual machine with an operating system of your choice. That means either Windows or Linux. And in Windows, you have different editions: standard edition, data center edition, enterprise edition. You can create any of them. Similarly, different flavors of the Linux also you can create in Azure cloud. Or you can also bring a virtual machine from your traditional data center. Okay, you don't want to create it in cloud, but you already have one. You wanted to bring it from on-premises to the cloud, well, you can do it. Azure Data Centers allows Microsoft customers to control all aspects of a virtual machine: networking, hard drives, a CPU, memory. And that is the reason why customers prefer to go to virtual machine service compared to containers, compared to Kubernetes, compared to functions, compared to app service, right? Compared to other compute options. Why customers go to virtual machines is because a customer has got full control over the operating system, over the configuration, over the networking and firewalls, what to open, what not to open, how the network routing is configured, what type of hard disks, the storage. So you have complete control, just like a server that you have in a traditional data center. Azure supports 64-bit architecture only. I think from Server 2012, Windows Server 2012, Microsoft is only supporting 64-bit operating systems. They're only producing 64-bit operating systems. But in the cloud also, whether it is Linux or Windows, they only support 64-bit operating systems.